Let's get to our 5 headlines. All right, let's get to our 5 headlines. And I don't have this actually written down as a headline, but I saw it right before we started here, that Cardi B is getting divorced. So a very sad development. I feel like that should be the number one. Cardi B was married to a gentleman named Offset. I don't know if that was his Christian name. Greatest romance of our time, Cardi B and Offset. And they are getting divorced. You know, who would have ever thought that rolling around on the floor naked and singing about your WAP may not be the healthiest thing for your marriage? I didn't see. I never could have seen that coming. But all of our hearts are breaking today. All right. Anyway, let's get to the real headlines. Reading from Fox News, it says on Tuesday, President Trump was joined by Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu, UAE Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and Bahrain Foreign Minister Khalid bin Ahmed Al Khalif. There we go, to sign the Abraham Accords, something the president hailed as the dawn of a new Middle East. However, says Fox, CNN's coverage of the event was less focused on the groundbreaking peace agreement and instead shamed the White House for holding such an event amid a pandemic. During the network's 3 p.m. program, CNN anchor Brooke Baldwin accused the president of denying the science, there we go, of coronavirus, citing the over 195,000 deaths. She later negatively emphasized the hundreds of people that attended the outdoor White House event and knocked the president for holding a packed indoor event in Arizona. Okay, so there you go. Of course, CNN has to, find something else to focus on. You got a historic peace deal. This is what they're going with, because they're pathetic frauds. But I will say, putting CNN to the side on this peace agreement, I've criticized Trump plenty, and with no regrets about that. But the man has been, I think, pretty easily the best foreign policy president in decades, at least. And I'd give him that title just simply based on the fact that he hasn't started any new wars. And it's sort of sad that that's where the bar is right now. Don't start a new war and you're the best foreign policy president in a generation. But that is where it is. And now you add this on top of it, and I think easily he wins as best foreign policy president in decades, in my lifetime, really. Number 2, on the one of the sheriff's deputies who was shot in that assassination attempt in Los Angeles over the weekend has been identified. Her name is Claudia Apolinar, 31 years old, mother, was a librarian before becoming a cop. And she's currently still in the hospital under guard for her own safety, of course, expected to recover, thankfully. Now, this is a pretty remarkable story. You got a young woman, young mother, decides to leave her job as a librarian, gets into law enforcement, not but a year, maybe a little bit over a year into becoming a deputy, she's shot in the face and the torso multiple times. And what does she do? There's the video of this with a bullet wound in her face, bleeding profusely, hardly able to speak, presumably in intense, unimaginable pain. She helps her partner apply a tourniquet. For all she knows, she's moments away from death. And what is she doing? She's caring for her partner. This is real heroism. I mean, this is a badass woman right here. This is what that is. So why isn't the left championing her? Why aren't they blaring the trumpets about this story? Why aren't they telling her story at all? This is a hero woman. It seems like also a Hispanic woman taking care of her male partner after sustaining a gunshot wound to the face. You think this would be the kind of story that our liberal friends would eat up? I mean, they're constantly coming out with movies with fake versions of kick-ass females who do this kind of thing. Here's the real thing, the real item in the flesh. And they don't seem very excited about it. We all know why, because the left has devolved to the point where they aren't allowed to celebrate or honor anyone who is not a violent criminal. All of their heroes recently are violent criminals. They have no heroic heroes. All of their heroes are scumbags who happen to get shot by the cops. That's the requirement for being a hero on the left today. Being a real hero disqualifies you. That's the left. But the rest of us can honor and celebrate this woman. Incredible story there. Number 3, you may have noticed that those riots in Lancaster that we talked about to start the week seem to dissipate pretty quickly. One night of rioting, and then it's done. We haven't heard anything else about Lancaster. Now, this is in contrast to Portland, Seattle, where it went on for months on end. Kenosha, it went on for weeks. In Lancaster, one night and it's done. Why is that? Well, I think this might help solve the puzzle. According to the New York Post, several of the rioters arrested are now facing $1 million bail. Now you can see right here, this is their mugshots. One of them is the blonde chick there. One of them, she's a sorority girl apparently. And now she's in jail and she can't get out. She's got $1 million bail. They're all learning, this is what happens when you pull this crap out in the country. And it's not just bail. Police in Lancaster, they came down hard on the rioters. They were using tear gas the very first night. They didn't spot the rioters 2 weeks to riot before they even tried to enforce the law. No, immediately they were out there with in full force tear gas, and there are videos of them, rolling up in vans, not unmarked vans, liberals. So you don't need to freak out about that. They are marked vans, but they identified the ringleaders of the rioting, and they singled them out, and they rolled up in the police vans, and they took them and arrested them. And now they're facing $1 million bail. So what do we learn? When you give these punks consequences, real consequences, the problem goes away. Lancaster came down hard, arrested people, harsh penalties. What do you know? Rioting stops. And that's why we don't need to hear anything about resources. That's one of the excuses we've heard in places like Portland and Seattle. Oh, we don't have the resources to. What resources do you think Lancaster has? This is Amish country. How often do you think the police officers in Amish country are dealing with rioting? It's probably the first time ever. And yet they were able to put it down that quickly, simply through enforcing the law and having real consequences. Because most of these people that are out rioting, they don't want any part of that. They're doing it for fun. They're doing it because they're nihilists. They're doing it because they've got misdirected rage and they're just spraying it in every direction. You start making it real for them and it goes away. All right, where are we? Number 4. This is fascinating from the Daily Wire again. A group of astrophysicists say they've accidentally stumbled upon a possible hint of life on Venus, an unexplained chemical that could indicate the presence of bacteria or even ongoing activity associated with specific chemical processes. Live Science reports that the team was trying to get a baseline read for phosphine from a planet, Venus, not thought to have phosphine in the atmosphere. And then it turns out that it does. And there's a lot of scientific-y stuff here that I'm not going to read. But basically, phosphine is a sign of life because the thing with phosphine is that it phosphonates and it creates I have no idea. Actually, I have no clue whatsoever. But the point is, apparently there might be some kind of life. Now, I'm assuming that any life on an 800-degree planet with a toxic atmosphere probably is not intelligent. We're not looking at an intelligent civilization, probably something more like Portland. But either way, I've always considered it plausible that there could be intelligent life in our solar system on other planets. If not Venus, then maybe Mars. And it seems plausible to me that they could have intelligent civilizations. The reason we don't see them with the satellites and the rovers and everything is that they're hiding underground because they don't want us to know about them. They were checking us out and seeing how things are developing on Earth, and they said, oh crap, this isn't looking good. And so they're hiding out and waiting for us to inevitably destroy ourselves, and then they can come back out and live out in the open again. The way I look at it, I think Earthlings are a little bit like, like the kind of person maybe an acquaintance who but if you see them at the grocery store, you're going to hide in the pasta sauce aisle until they leave. Because if they're obnoxious, and if you see them, they're going to start talking to you, and they're not going to go away. I think on a galactic scale, Earth is probably a lot like that. Number 5, a man in Oregon was arrested for starting a brush fire, then released. So we just talked about how to do this the right way. You arrest people and you keep them. This is the wrong way again because we're back in Oregon. So he was arrested for starting a brush fire. He was released. Then he started 6 more and was arrested again. Now, between this and the gender reveal party that we know also caused some of these fires, the link to climate change seems to be becoming a little bit less clear, shall we say. Maybe climate change has driven people mad and caused them to start fires and do gender reveal parties. I don't know. I think there was an M. Night Shyamalan movie that was sort of about that with Mark Wahlberg, if I'm remembering correctly. What was that movie called? Where the trees were like causing people to kill themselves because as revenge for deforestation. Am I making this up? No, it was called The Happening. I think that was a movie. Which, by the way, could you think of a lazier name for a movie than The Happening? What should we call the movie? I don't know. Things are happening in the movie. Maybe The Happening? Finally, we just did number 5. Here's a bonus. I can't not play this. I really enjoyed this clip. This is Nancy Pelosi on CNBC yesterday with Jim Cramer, and here's what happened.
What deal can we have, Crazy Nancy? I'm sorry, that was the president. I have such reverence for the office, I would never use that term. But it is hard,
But you just did.
Oh, come on.
But you just did.
You know what I mean. You know
I
what
know
I
what you
mean.
mean.
The
I
reverence
do.
I have
I do.
for the office is so great.
No, he was right the first time. Crazy Nancy, that's her name. I like how at the end he goes, "Oh, come on, you know what I meant." And she says, "Yeah, I know what you meant." Well, what did you mean? If not that she's crazy, isn't that what you meant? And then my next favorite thing is how Cramer emphasizes the respect he has for the office, not for her, but for the office. That's a backhanded compliment. He says, I would never. I have so much respect and love for your office. Your office is what I like, not so much you, but your office. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi not having a great week. First, someone poops on her driveway. Then she's called crazy on national television. Tough week for her. Pretty enjoyable for the rest of us, but kind of tough for her.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.